It's honestly crazy how baffling the current situation feels like when looking at the newest 3.5 banners, and I think now is the best time to investigate this whole situation. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Clash of Clans, a free-to-play game that's set in an ever-evolving fantasy world where you as a chief build your village and attack other players with your troops, earn rewards, buy new upgrades, and keep improving your own village defenses to protect your riches. But I'm sure most of you heard about this game already, and I'm super happy to talk about it because I recently started playing it again, and I'm just surprised how well the game has aged. It's been around for a while now, but it's still so easy to get into it and start fresh, and the updates are super consistent. Like the newest Valentine's season that's happening right now has a bunch of new stuff like cool costumes and more. And if you love strategy, well, the World Championship is back. Some of the best players will show you their strategies you can adapt for your own village, and I think that's an awesome way to get to know the meta. So make sure to download Clash of Clans by using my link in the description or pinned comments and start playing this classic strategy game. Most importantly, by doing this, you will also help support my channel big time. Look, you and I both know whenever I make these videos discussing characters before they are released, I have to tread carefully. But at this point, it's becoming almost impossible to ignore what's happening with Dehya right now. Still, I can only talk about what's been made official about her, and a few minutes later, I will also discuss the other weird things about 3.5 banners. However, let me first address the biggest thing about Dehya. So, she's getting added into the standard banner after 3.6 update, and I guess that explains a lot with the rumors that have been going on about her. Now, I think this is probably the most weird thing I've seen happen over the game scores, because people have been asking for a 5-star Geo character to be added to a standard pool for ages now. But what's Hoyover's answer to this? Here you go, have a 5-star Pyro Claymore character who will now compete with Diluc when you lose a 50-50. Now, don't get me wrong, a new character added to a standard pool is actually pretty exciting if you've been playing the game for a long time. But for new players, or at least somebody who saved up a couple of hundred wishes, imagine losing your 50-50s like this. Once you get Diluc, while another time you get Dehya. Like, while the standard banner characters don't have the best power level in the game, the point of them is to expand your roster with variety, like Mona's damage boosting, Jean's healing, and so on. In fact, I would argue right now, getting Keqing when you lose a 50-50 is a blessing. She's so good with Dendro right now, and you can easily build meta aggravate teams with her. Still, while Hoyoverse never officially stated this themselves, even if Dehya is getting the standard banner treatment, it is possible this will be the one and only time you can get her from a featured banner. But this is not confirmed, just something to think about if you're considering to pull her. And if you are considering to pull Dehya, what can you expect from her? Well, the livestream is marketing her as a tanky character that you can use to protect your team with her elemental skill, which will also deal coordinated pyro attacks in a similar way to how Albedo's skill works, which means when anyone deals damage to an enemy inside the skill's field, then her skill will deal damage after a short delay. Thing is, I'm not sure if Hoyoverse is trolling us at this point, but if you look closely at the footage, when they are showcasing her ability to apply pyro off-field, here, Ganyu launches her charge shot, but it doesn't actually melt, which is funny because the point of this presentation was to convince players you can use Dehya's skill to apply pyro off-field. Now, before we get our pitchforks out, it is important to consider things like timing Ganyu's charge shot, and maybe if Dehya's pyro application is inconsistent on its own, it might work great for burning, since the latest burning goat team variation has been utilized for some time now, where Nahida's skill works pretty well at maintaining burning on a target when a reaction is caused. Still, expecting players to own Nahida is obviously too much. Now, the last thing that's kinda cool about her is the resistance to interruption she provides for an active character when the skill is deployed. So going back to Coco Goat, assuming this means she won't get interrupted, it's a pretty great way to use Dehya's skill. Oh, and one last thing, a portion of damage dealt to the active character will get transferred to Dehya, but again, her skill needs to be deployed for this to happen, hence why she's being marketed as a tank. And as for her burst, I honestly have no comments about it. It looks cool, but without the damage numbers and ICD, there's not much to talk about it here, and I will analyze this when she gets released. Overall, I think aesthetically, Dehya looks great. I enjoyed her company in the Archon quest, especially the one with Samsara storyline, and I will reserve my final judgment about her when she gets released, but for now, I feel like Dehya getting added to a standard banner is really bizarre to say the least. However, the fun doesn't end here. We still need to talk about the second phase banners. So, physical damage hasn't really seen that many changes over the course of Genshin's life. We first got Shenhe, whose burst deals physical damage, then Eula got released with the Pale Flame artifact set, and now we are getting Mika. Now, his abilities are a mouthful here, but to put it simply, his elemental skill boosts the party's attack speed, and everyone will also receive physical damage boost depending on how many enemies Mika's skill will hit, while the burst, from what I'm seeing here, it will not deal any damage, and instead, it will heal the party initially, and then it will grant Eagle Plume state to the active character that will heal them whenever they use normal attacks. Essentially, Mika is a support unit that specializes in boosting physical damage and provides healing. I honestly think that's a nice combination of benefits to have, but I do have some concerns, and it mainly has to do with Eula, since she's the premier physical damage dealer. Thing is, Eula demands at least 10 seconds of field time to unleash her burst, and most of her rotations involve playing around her burst explosion so the damage can be maximized. Any buffs in the rotation need to be considered carefully, so if Mika comes along, it will really matter how long his attack speed and physical damage boost will last, because if it's short, like 11 or 12 seconds, that means he will need to be placed second last in the rotation before Eula goes into her burst, just to make sure when the explosion happens, Mika's buffs are utilized. Now, this becomes less important for other physical damage dealers like Crescent Pike Zhongli or physical bow users, but for Eula, it really matters how much leeway she gets when taking advantage of Mika's buffs. Also, on a side note, the attack speed buff Mika provides sounds really cool, because if it's something like a boost between 15 to 20%, it will result in Eula dealing one additional normal attack. Of course, this also depends on your server's ping, but this still means she can build her burst explosion a bit better when it comes to acquiring Lightfall stacks. And also, attack speed more than anything is a comfortable upgrade when it comes to weaving in those attacks, because it just becomes easier to build the stacks if you make a mistake or need to do an emergency dodge. Now, naturally, you'd assume if there's a specialized damage booster like Kujo-Sara who always gets paired with Raiden on a banner or Goro with Ito, surely Hoyoverse wouldn't break the pattern, right? Right? Sadly, April Fools came too early this year, and instead of Eula, Mika will be appearing on Shenhe and Ayaka double banners in Phase 2. Don't get me wrong, seeing a wild Shenhe appear after a long time is a joy to say the least, and I will be making a video about her later on, while Ayaka is an extremely solid damage dealer. But Mika has nothing to do with them. I mean, sure, Shenhe's burst shreds physical resistance, but she's primarily a cryo damage booster. Honestly, if you're a Eula main, I would probably take the gamble and just wait for Mika's rerun to see if next time he appears along with Eula, because then if you're pulling for him, there's a chance you might also get Eula's constellations. And C1, C3, and especially C6 are great upgrades for her. Still, it depends on what the other two 4-stars are going to be, and more importantly, will this be another Kujo-Sara or Farzan situation where C0 Mika is clunky or hard to use, and you are tempted to pull for constellations. But still, I am kinda excited to see what sort of shenanigans I'll be able to pull off with Mika, because it's not often we get new stuff for physical teams. And I already got inspired to whip up some physical teams for this Abyss, although the Metaslave syndrome in me quickly took over, and I ended up using physical Zhongli with a Hyper Bloom. But hey, I am trying my best to recover from this, okay? Overall, this whole 3.5 patch feels so weird and so out of place that the only way I can explain why this is happening has to do with the fact we're getting a new Dainsleif quest. And Hoyoverse can get away with this tomfoolery. As much as I love the gameplay, Dainsleif quests are probably the best way to experience the storyline, and I'm sure this new quest will be a banger, since from what I'm hearing, Kaya will be making an appearance, and that guy is a complete mystery to me. But looking at the banners, one thing I haven't talked about yet would be Cyno's rerun. His banner will be featured alongside Diaz, and I actually talked about him not that long ago in my newest top 5 teams video. There's a really powerful team comp made up of Xingqiu, Cookie, and Nahida, which enables him to do great Hyper Bloom and Quicken damage, and I personally like it myself, but he doesn't really offer anything unique for your account if you can already build a Hyper Bloom or Aggravate team, since you need to build a team around him, and I would say pull for him if you can see yourself enjoy his playstyle. And as for the second phase banners, well, by this point, you should already know if you care about your primos. We wait until more info gets revealed about 3.6 from a livestream and then decide. Still, this is going to be Shenhe's first rerun, and it's actually crazy to think that she came out with Enkonomiya patch. Remember this place? Do you guys still go there? Anyway, I've been using her a lot in my freeze and mono cryo teams, and I'll be making a separate video about her in the nearest future. But all in all, for now, all I have to say about this 3.5 update is that it's definitely one of the Genshin patches of all time, and it's actually funny how bizarre it is. So hey, at least we're having fun, right? Anyway, thanks for watching this video. I'd really appreciate if you could press the like button and subscribe to my channel, and if you're feeling extra generous today, use my link in the description, download the game, and help support my channel. Thanks, and see you next time.